3 months after my mom passed away, I was sitting at home one night when something unexpected happened. After nearly 2 decades of searching for my biological father with no answers, I finally found my first real lead. When my mom passed away in October of 2017, it left a huge hole in my life. Not just because she was my mom, but because she was the only person who truly knew the story about my biological father. She was the only one who had been there when everything happened, and after she was gone, it felt like a piece of that story had disappeared with her. For years, I had searched on and off for my father with almost no information to go on, but after my mom passed away, something about that search felt different. More emotional. More urgent. It felt like the last connection I had to that part of my life had suddenly disappeared. Around that same time, I was also trying to find ways to cope with the grief I was feeling. The house felt quiet in a way it never had before. And there were moments when the loneliness felt overwhelming. Then something happened that brought a small bit of light during a really dark time. Less than 2 weeks after my mom passed away, a litter of puppies was born. When I heard about them, something about the timing felt meaningful. As the weeks went by, I kept thinking that maybe having a puppy might help bring a little comfort during such a difficult time. So in December, the night before the first birthday I would celebrate without my mom, I made a decision. I got in my car and drove over an hour to pick him up. I remember that drive very clearly. Part of me was still carrying so much sadness, but another part of me felt hopeful that this little puppy might help fill some of the emptiness I had been feeling. And in many ways, he did. He became a really good distraction from the grief I was carrying. Taking care of him gave me something positive to focus on during a time that felt incredibly heavy. Even though the pain of losing my mom was still there, having him brought a little bit of comfort into those days. Looking back now, it almost feels like he arrived exactly when I needed him the most. And I genuinely believe my mom would have loved him too. But even with life moving forward, the questions about my father never really went away. Around that time, my sister told me she had a friend who worked as a private investigator. She said when she returned from her honeymoon, she was going to ask her if she might be able to help find my father. When she said that, it gave me a little bit of hope. But I also knew that even a private investigator would need something to work with. Some kind of lead? So one night near the end of January, about 3 months after my mom had passed away, I was sitting at home alone watching television. During a commercial break, I picked up my phone and I remember thinking maybe I should try searching again. By that point, I had searched the internet for information about the Castle restaurant hundreds of times over the years, every time hoping something new might appear, and every time coming up empty. But that night, I wasn't expecting to find anything. I was really just trying to see if there was any information at all that I could pass along to the private investigator. Anything that might help her start looking. So I typed in a search similar to the ones I had tried many times before, something like the Castle Best Ribs in Flowertown in the 1980s. But this time, something different appeared. An article I had never seen before. I remember staring at my phone screen in disbelief. I began to tremble. My body was shaking. I could barely breathe. The article talked about the woman who had originally owned and operated the restaurant during the early 1980s. And as I kept reading, I noticed something else. It mentioned that her family owned another restaurant in a town about 45 minutes away from where I live. And that restaurant was still operating. In that moment, my heart started racing even more. Because after 18 years of searching, this was the first real lead I had ever found. It was about 7 o'clock on a Friday night. My sister and brother weren't available to come with me, but something inside me told me I had to check it out. This might be the only real lead I would ever get. So I grabbed a photograph of my mom that had been sitting on a shelf in her house for years. It was a picture of her standing behind the bar at the castle. restaurant where she had worked. At the time, I didn't even realize that photo had been taken there. I had only found that out recently when we were cleaning out her house after she passed away, and my sister's dad pointed it out. So I grabbed that photo, put it in my purse, and got in my car. I was about to drive 45 minutes to a restaurant I'd never been to, completely alone. And as I started driving, my mind was racing. For nearly 18 years, I had been searching for my biological father with almost nothing to go on, and now suddenly I had a real lead. But as I drove, I realized something. I had absolutely no plan. I kept thinking to myself, what am I even going to say when I get there? What if they ask me questions I don't know how to answer? What if they don't remember anything? Or worse, what if they do remember everything and I was supposed to remain a secret? Would my presence be disrupting a whole family? The truth was, I had spent so many years trying to find a lead that I'd never really thought about what I would do if I actually got one. Because up until that moment, every search had ended the same way. Nothing. So as I was driving there, I was deep in thought, trying to imagine how the conversation might go, trying to figure out what my plan was. But the truth is, I didn't have one. All I knew was that after 18 years of searching, I finally had a lead, and I couldn't ignore it. And as I pulled into the parking lot of that restaurant that night, I had no idea that walking through those doors was about to change everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep following along.